and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and today's first impressions video we're going to have a look at the Werk 2020 tool, new tool in 2020. It's the JU EF-126 Elli or the EF-127 Walli, but then it tells you it's 3 in 1, so and there's only 2 there, so not quite sure what's going on. I'm sure as we go through this we will understand it more fully. So, as you can see, it is a German jet-powered aircraft. Experimental, not even sure that the prototype ever got off the ground, to be honest. And I think some of your options are 1 jet, 2 jets, that sort of thing. I think they were making a prototype at the end of the war and just ran out of time. Anyway, it's a Werk's kit, as I said, that came out in 2020. The kit has not been altered since then, so all the kits of this from Werk will be the same. There's no different release with different decals or anything like that at this time. It's a 132 scale. Its kit number is DW. I'm guessing that's Werk's 32001. So I reckon that must mean 32 scale kit number 1, because they certainly haven't brought out that many kits. And it tells you here that it's a highly detailed static plastic model, one of 3 versions. It has a detailed cockpit, it's reassuring, takeoff and ground handling trolley, operational landing skids and positions, and factory fuselage cradles. So basically you can show this in multiple different configurations. It doesn't have a landing gear. It sits on a trolley. You can see these here, little stabilizers. Sits on a trolley. As it takes off, it parts company with the trolley, and then it sort of glides back to Earth is the general principle. As I understand it, I'm no expert on these things. I just buy models that I like the look of, not necessarily because I've got to build something I've got a passion on. So the artwork on the front is quite nice. It tells you it's 100% Werk's production, and that's important because not everything Werk's release they've moulded themselves, particularly recently in their 135 scale stuff. A lot of it has come from other manufacturers. When we look at the box, we have sides of the box are pretty much the same, just tells you what you've got on the top cover. On this side, we've got lots of different paint options, so that's nice straight away that we've got all these options. And then on this side, we've got some CAD pictures. Now, people are a bit divided about CAD pictures. That's what they plan to do, but is it what they actually ended up doing? Who knows? There's only one way to find out. Let's get stuck in. So the box itself is top opening, which is good. It's corrugated, which gives it some strength, and then the sides are double folded. The lid, as always, is a bit flimsier, double folded at the sides, but a bit flimsier. But given the size of the box, not too much of a worry. There is space in the box. So you are going to get some up and down movement, but the sprues, if I take the instructions out, the sprues are in the main tight in the box. So packaging, not so bad at all. So everything comes individually wrapped. Each sprue is in a separate bag, and the decals are also in a separate bag as well, which I really like because it means that the top protective sheet's not going to come off. They're not floating around in the box and likely to get damaged. So yeah. Right, let's start with the instructions. And what we have is an A4 stapled, fairly meaty document here as our build instructions, and the front cover is really nice. We've got a picture on the front of it on its factory transport trolley, I think, and it's got double engines. So this is probably a computer generated image made to look like a period image. But yeah, really, really nice picture. We've got little coffee cup stains on it. It's made to look like an old document, and it gives us the two different versions, and it says some stuff in German. So as we open it up, the first thing we see is something that says Chapter 1, Keep Going, Elli. Having read a couple of lines, it appears that this is a fictional story. Random. Then on page 5, we have a very short history of the aircraft, effectively designed as part of the emergency fighter program. And then in smaller text, we've got some warnings and build advice, how to put decals on, that sort of stuff. Then as we hit page 6, we've got a sprue map. So it would appear that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sprues and a sheet of decals. So there's no numbers, it's just a picture. So I do wonder what the value of these are, really. If you can't go back to... Oh, I beg your pardon. So if you look at the sprues, it does have the numbers. So if you're struggling to find it on the plastic, you can come back and cross-reference it. It's always handy. A lot of companies put a sprue map on and don't put the numbers on. So it's a bit of a pointless exercise, and other companies don't bother at all. Decal sheet, and then we have a very clear key, shows you exactly what you're doing. So I wonder if they've done that with a sense of irony. I'm not sure, but they've done ×2 is a repeat, ×4 is a repeat. They could have just put ×2 is a repeat, and then whatever the number was, you'd know was a repeat. But they've decided to repeat it. Okay, it's the little things that make me laugh. So all the usual things. Everyone has a slightly different key. Right, page 8, and we are starting our build. So let's have a look at this. We've got assembly. We've got some pictures. I think that's supposed to be pictures of the completed part, and I'm guessing it's that we're building. I don't see the point of that picture. If it's not telling you something, why put it in? So it does say at the top factory scene, so maybe the point is how do you want to display the model? But they're not saying that. How do you want to display the model? Because if we look here, this one says takeoff trolley. So I think you're either displaying it on that or you're displaying it on that. I think that seems to make sense to me. So you've got a top picture that shows you what you're trying to achieve. You've got the build instruction, which has the individual kit parts and the dotted lines take you to where they go, and then you've got a finished picture in different views so you can orientate it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, so build trolley. So this is an option. That's an option, or that's an option. That means option. That symbol's not on here. So why is it not saying that? So already the instructions are falling down. Okay, the instructions themselves relatively clear. The part numbers are clear. How it goes together is clear. It's just one blown up assembly rather than step by step. If this was wingnut wings, which they're clearly trying to emulate in format, it would have the little arrow that says you do that first and then you do that and so on. So it's saying here ×2, which I think means the wheels. But again, that's not clear because they've not broken it down into sub-assemblies. If this was an Airfix instruction, that would be in a box of its own. It'd say make 2. That would be in a box of its own, and then you would apply those sub-assemblies onto that. But it's not difficult to work out. We have a picture here, which is giving you, I think, our first paint call-outs. There's no paint call-outs on that. So it's telling you RLM20 for the hubs and rubber for the tyre. Wheel rims are designed to be painted before assembly. Okay, that's great. Separate hubs, love it. And then that is what you should have ended up with when you've completed it. The nice big pictures. So from that point of view, good. Just not quite right. Just not quite thought it through, I think. Okay, 10. And now we're up in our game a little bit on the instructions. So this is building the aircraft proper, and we've got some computer-generated images showing you the parts in colour with decal positions. So that's interesting. Lots of decals. I like that. And then it's showing you these parts going in. So these are our new parts, but we've not. Right, okay. So we're painting these parts, putting the decals on, then we're assembling. Dismounted wing. No, use part C8 instead of C48 to build a factory scene. Oh, okay, so you can build it without the wings as if it's being manufactured in the factory, which is a nice option. I won't be going for that, but it's a nice option. Allow part 3B. I like the fact that there's some text explaining it, because the way they've laid it out with the pictures is not as straightforward as perhaps it looks. And it's easy to look at, but you do have to study it to work it out a little bit. Maybe I'm just not familiar with their instructions, and that's what it is. But yeah, it's not quite saying to me, this is nice and easy to follow. As we go on to page 11, we've got the cockpit parts that we painted in there. Is that right? Yeah, that's that. Those are that. That's that. And then we've got some other bits, which are those there. So we're making up the pedals, and they go together. So that's those. These aren't very easy to follow, actually. It's taking parts there and putting decals on parts that we've already painted there, and it's telling you the paint colours, even though we saw it there. So they didn't tell us what colour to paint it there, but now they're telling us here. It's confusing. Why did they show me it there if they're going to show me it there again? Yeah, okay. Pedals going in joystick. I think when it's in blue, it's a new part you've not touched before, I guess. And then, oh, hang on. Right, those are those. That and that makes that assembly. So they're showing you what colour to paint it and where to put the decal before they show you assembling it. Right, and then after they've shown you assembling it, they're telling you to trim a bit out of it. These are all over the place. Yeah, I'm not enjoying these instructions at all. I've said it before about Das Works, and I'm afraid I'm going to say it again. Style over substance. It looks very pretty, but it actually doesn't really work. It doesn't make sense. The layout that they've got doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive. Okay, page 12, and we're at 3.5, the cockpit. And it's telling us to assemble the seat, then attach the seat, then paint the seat. Right, again, yeah. Then we're putting the dashboard in that we've seen several times before into this upper bit of fuselage. I like the fact that the fuselage is split sideways rather than top and bottom. I'm hoping that that would have been natural panel lines, but who knows. And then we're on step 4.1, which is closed forward fuselage. So put the two bits together. So that's our cockpit finished then. Then step 13, we're on step 5.1, and it tells you what size drill to use. So well done, because not all manufacturers think about doing that. We've got some drilling to do. It doesn't say it's an option, so I assume you have to do that for everything. So drill through so those location pins can marry through, I think is what it's saying. So that's a little rocket rack, I think. And then remove when mounting wing. Right, okay, so they were on for the factory version. If you're doing the wing mounted version, you take those lifting hooks off. 5.2, add the wings. So we've got little wing spars that they slot onto. So hopefully that should be all nice and rigid. Page 14. So we're back to a picture that says landing skid retracted. Okay. Oh, okay, so there is landing gear. Okay. Right, so there's a trolley for launch and then it lands on a skid. And we've got options here. They've not used their option logo though. And 6.2 is landing skid extended. So it doesn't tell you it's an option. So if you don't look ahead in the instructions, you could glue those on and then go, oh, but I wanted to do it with the landing skid open. So again, not thought through. But 3 parts simple going on there. We are using those parts again as part of the skid, so that's good. We've not got multiple parts. We've got parts that we can use in either configuration, which is good. Means that they properly fit when closed. So we've got some extra parts there, and that builds up there. I wonder if, yeah, okay. So that will be that. That will be that. That joins that, so that's that. But I can only see one. Ah, right, okay. Then we're putting the other bits in afterwards, and we can see where they locate. So they've used, we've not seen this before, and they've not explained it in their key, so don't know exactly what the different colours mean. But we've got highlighted in green and highlighted in red. And highlighted in green appears to be where these are going and that is going. No idea what the highlighted in red means. Yeah, again. But there's no reference in the key about different colours and what they mean, so who knows what's going on. Okay, page 16, and we're in step 6.3, wing details. So we've got all these little rockets going on, lots of those. And then we've got the little braces that go at the end of the wings, so that whichever way it lands, it's going to end up with one wing resting on the floor. So that's just to protect the wing. And then we've got these things here. Are they like stabilizers or something, maybe? What's it say? Maintain vertical angle. Oh, okay. So try and stop it tilting over. Okay. for in-flight or post-flight versions, omit Part C. Right, okay. So only for launch then. Okay, interesting. So you've got, just to recap, you've got a version that can be on a factory trolley with no wings. I guess you could build the wings up and have them stacked separately, ready for assembly. Then you've got a version ready for takeoff on the launch trolley, which means the ski will be closed and these will be down. Or you've got a landed version which has the ski up and these omitted. So lots of different options, which is really nice. Got to say, that is nice. And then we says choose engine configuration, and it takes you to the relevant page. Well, we'll look at all of them. So engine configuration appears to be no engine, dual, 2 engines, single, 1 engine. Let's have a look. Right, so we're building the tail end of the fuselage. Now it now tells you what those colours mean. So even though we've already seen them in use, it is now telling you what they mean. Okay, handy. No glue and glue. Green is glue, red is no glue. Okay. So we're building up the tail there and the fuselage, back end of the fuselage. Then we're building what will be the mount point for the single engine, I'm guessing. Putting the tail together. Building the engine, so that looks relatively simple, doesn't it? We've got a grille there at the front and then a nose piece to build up. And then that should just plop into there. So that looks very much like a Doodlebug as a single engine, which is why I think I'm probably going to do the twin engine version. It's a bit more Flash Gordon, isn't it? And then you join the two together. Then you've got the manoeuvring rockets to go on the sides, 2 on each side. Just be careful of the orientation of those because they are angled in different directions to manoeuvre up and down. So we're doing the same again, but 2 engines this time. And shove them on there. It's a bit Starship Enterprise, that, isn't it? With those engine nacelles there, like that. Yeah, okay. So it's clever how they put the 2 different part versions into the same fuselage. I think that's well engineered, well designed. Then we're building the tail around the dual engine, so slightly different process than before. Join it together, put on our manoeuvring engines, and then we're building up the canopy there, and we've got the little gyro on the front, and then we can mount all of that on the trolley. So both the single and the dual engine can mount on that trolley. So there it's showing the skid down and those down, even though it told you that you could only have one or the other. Maybe I've misunderstood that, but that's not how I read it. Okay, this is the version that has a rocket motor built inside rather than the engines. Okay. So different rear fuselage sections with built in at the back. So that's quite nice looking, but it's not as nice looking as that, is it? So don't think we'll do that. given that we've only got the one option. Slap the two together like we've seen before, manoeuvring engines like we've seen before, and then a slightly different way of mounting it onto the trolley. Radio ring and canopy again. You can show that open and closed. And that is it. So 11 steps. Obviously a lot more because they're quite busy, some of those steps. Page 31 takes us to the paint guide, which is all in colour, nicely presented. And we get a side view for each different one. So it tells you what they are. So we've got, what, 7 there, is it? Yeah, 7 different versions there. And it gives you some fictional dates: February 1946 and early 1947, Russian one. Right, okay, and now we get to the more meaningful shout outs. So paint instructions are quite nicely laid out. We'll talk a little bit more about this particular version in a moment. We've got a number of different brands called out, so it tells you what the colour is. It gives it a box so that you can reference it on the picture. It gives you a RAL number. Then you've got a Tamiya, Mr. Hobby, Ammo of MiG, I wouldn't use that, Vallejo, Humbrol, and Mission Models. So all the main brands that the modelers use are in there, so that's great. Now this particular version is the factory version unpainted, which I think is a really nice idea. Now particularly as this was a different material, so you've got aluminium and you've got plywood, and then no doubt you've got steel or something like that. It says burnt metal, bare aircraft plywood. So it's giving you all these colours, and what they've said is that they used to stamp their materials to track them, so they've given you decals to allow you to put decals on all the different panels so that you know what material it was. So I think that's really great. You're going to get something that looks really quite different. I like that idea. The plywood, painting the plywood, that is not going to look too authentic, but we will come back to that in a minute or two. But I really like that idea, so much so that I think I'm probably doing that. Okay, so then we've got different shout outs for the different individual colour schemes that they're offering. So they are doing basically one page for one scheme, and it tells you at the top what they are. So this one says Unknown Test Unit, Germany, late 46. Unknown Unit, Germany, late 46, with a bit of splinter camouflage, but quite pale colours. White primer is the main colour, and red primer. So imprimed colours with camouflage wings, basically. Then this one is largely aluminium with trying to work out what colour that is. One of the issues is because the pictures are nice, but the computer rendered and they put shadow effect on and stuff like that, but it makes it a little bit difficult to work out what the colour is. So I think that is light, is that early light blue? But what's that? I don't see a colour there. The tail is different to that. Oh, so it wraps all the way around, so it's light blue all the way around. But that colour there looks different to that colour there, and yet it's not the easiest thing to follow, unfortunately. Then we've got this nice 2-engine version here with the more traditional camouflage schemes. Then we've got a Soviet test version, which is quite interesting. If you want to cut some red stars on it, there you go. And then we've got a fully painted version with more complex camouflaging, and that is depicting the motored version there. Then we have a page devoted to stencil placements. So I imagine that that's best guess type of stuff. It says that the stencils are the same for all versions of the aircraft, which would make sense. And then on the last page, there's a little bit about who did what. So we have a nice large decal sheet there. Obviously, we've got 7 different options to work through. So that's partly why we've got so many. So we've got national markings, which include 2-part swastikas for the tail. We've got the little placards and things that are in the cockpit there. We've got all the different stencils for the raw material version. Then we've got the various different painted versions, different national markings, and then these stencils here, I'm not quite sure what they are. Having not studied the instructions too closely, this is in a big block, and that is in a big block, and then these are complete long tails. All of these are individual long strips. So not quite sure exactly what they are. The decals are cartograph, however. It says drawn by Hammond Studios, printed by Cartograph, made in Italy. So they're very nice, they're glossy, they're shiny, the colours are deep and rich, they're not opaque. I think they look really quite nice. But if you see there, them blocks, I don't know whether you cut them into individuals or what quite you do with those. Right then, sprue A. Let's have a look at something meaningful. Okay, so we have the fuselage parts, the main parts there for mounting engines, skids, and the wheels up and top and bottom. So I was wondering what that was. I'm not sure. I think that might be release agent, or is it plastic swirl? Hard to tell. We'll want to wash these anyway. The parts are very crisply moulded. The plastic is nice and hard, rock hard, and quite glossy. Very, very smooth, except for where it doesn't want to be. We've got some texture there. It's all very uniform. Then we've got panel lines, quite shallow. And then we've got some fasteners which are quite pronounced. Got nice little cabling there with tie downs. You can see, that's nice. Top of the cockpit there. Now if we flip her over, yeah, we've got detail on both sides. This is the ejector pin side, so most of these won't be seen. Yeah, there's some ejector pin marks on that inside of the skid, so if you've got the skid down, you've got some clean up to do there. They are recessed, so you'll have to build them up and then sand them, which would be problematic in a couple of those areas. Actually, would have been easier if they'd flipped that round. It would have been easier to fill and work on that surface than that surface. But yep, there we go. That all looks okay. You see what I mean about the ejector pins there? So there's not much in the way of surface detail, but that is because this is the plywood area. Where we have got the aluminium, we have got nice rivet detail along the panel lines. Okay, sprue B, and we've got the engines, we've got alternative tail, and this is the tail that will be on most of the versions. The previous tail was the version without the engines on, and some tail parts, more parts of the skid assembly, the little mounts for all those rockets, and what I can say is this tail is absolutely beautiful. We've got raised fastener detail, we've got sunken rivets of different sizes, absolutely stunning, and then can you see we've got canning along there? That's nice. That's really nice. Yeah, I like that. All sorts of raised panel detail, so really, really nicely done that. The tail, I'm not quite sure what it is, but the texturing they've put on there looks a little bit too uniform. All of them are the same. It's almost like they've designed one and then just repeat. So it somehow looks a little bit false, with the exception of that one there where, yeah, the ejector pin marks come through and shines through on this side. That's the only one that looks slightly different. I might keep it just because it looks different. That's the little tail piece there for the alternative tail. The engine grille is very nicely detailed. We've got more texturing there on these fins and fasteners. It's all crisp, no flash obviously. I mean, this is first release version I've got here. That's the dual engine version. And the engines themselves, nice and crisp and clean. We've got no sink, despite the fact that we're using location pins, but they've made the plastic quite thick, so that any sink's lost in there, so that's good. Yeah, that is nice actually. That is very nice. Love that. Okay, sprue C now, and we've got, well, the major component here is the trolleys. So we have this little frame, which was step one if you remember in the instructions, and we've got some sheet metal there that's been riveted together. A lot of ejector pins on the other side. And then we've got this trellis here, which is used for manoeuvring the aircraft around, and I think I'm likely to use that. I imagine it was wood, but it underneath it's hollow. Don't think I like that, especially here because that's raised up. The body's going on there, so that's raised up, so that will be visible. Yeah, don't like that. That'll have to be filled. Bit of plastic card over it or something like that. Yeah, that's Could have done that better. Then we've got the little manoeuvring engines, which are very nice and crisp. Plastic, although being delicate and thin, it is robust. The plastic is hard, so these components are really nice. The little radio loop there. The joystick, you can see there's a little trigger on the handle. You can see that. Some very nice components. There's a little bit of sync on there. That's our first sync. So those are the little triangular blocks that go in that. The seat is nice. Got lots of surface detail and rivets and stuff on there. The landing gear is quite chunky, surprisingly chunky, but I guess that is right when you look at the size of the wheels. Two-part wheels with separate hubs, which is lovely. The cushion that goes in the seat isn't uniform, which is great, as it should be. And the detail of the dashboard and stuff is very fine and nice. Even the pedals, really detailed. It's very well done. These are the trumpets for the engine rockets there. You could they're deeply recessed, so you wouldn't need to drill them out, but you could, given the thickness of the underside, drill through them if you wished. There's our little gyro for the front. All those little rockets. And see, they put the connection gates on the point that attaches in, so you could snip all these off and actually keep them on the sprue while you paint them. So brilliant. That's really nice. Well, it's well thought through. In places they have really thought about it. Very nice, very nice. Okay, sprue D is our clear parts. We've got 3 clear parts which make up a front and back and middle section of the canopy. And then we've got a little 4th one here which goes in the cockpit, which is our compass and aimer. There is a little bit of sticky plastic film been put over this canopy to stop it getting scratched, which is a really nice detail. It's worth that extra penny to have that on there. As we've seen recently, parts can get scratched if you're not careful. Yeah, they are really clear, very nice. I can see there's perhaps a bit more distortion than you'd like, but there isn't a pilot, so won't be too noticeable, I don't think. They have a slightly different texture for the frame. There's no paint masks or anything, so it's traditional clean-up or make your own masks. The hinges on there are really nicely done. I'm sure under paint will pop out. Yeah. There we go. And that is it for what you get in the kit. Now, when it comes to aftermarket, there's not much available for the kit. Das Works have brought out some of their own stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's 1 or 2 other companies that have done paint masks for those 3 bits of canopy. And that is pretty much it. Das Works have brought out this, and they've brought out a pilot. But there is one glaring omission that we've not got from anybody, including the kit, and that is seat harnesses. There's none included in the kit, and no one does it aftermarket. So you're making your own out of masking tape and bits of brass that you shape yourself. So, yeah. Right, however, when we were going through the instructions, I was quite enamoured with that factory version unpainted, and Das Work do a set of decals to allow you to replicate the plywood. So I thought that would be rather nice. So let's have a quick look at them. So what you get with the wood grain decals, it says tailored to the JUEF. Well, tailored's a bit of a loose word, because what you actually get is one single decal. This is one complete decal sheet with this lot printed on, and you have to cut this out yourself. So what we get is 2 pieces of generic plywood, so you can do some sections yourself in the way that you would like. You get fasteners that you can add yourself, which are in rows, so you can separate them and put them along the lines as fasteners. And then you get the upper and lower wings already sort of cut out, some fasteners along there, some not. The fact that you've got to cut them out means that you're going to get a very sharp edge with no decal film, and that's why they've done it, I'm guessing. It's going to take a little bit of time, but when you look at the instructions, what it actually recommends is it tells you a colour to paint it underneath, which will help the decals look their best, and then it actually tells you to cut it into sections and work with sections that fit with you. So you could cut this little bit out here and do that first, or you could do the whole length of it because you've got a long bit there, and then do the others as panel lines. And then when it comes to the vertical elevators, it's suggesting that you make your own up out of this. So basically, which is what you've got there. So basically you can mess around with this to your heart's content to end up with a unique finish for you. There's nothing stopping you cutting out that and replacing it with one of these or one of those, so you've got something unique to you if you would wish to. What I would suggest is, with the vertical elevators, they're saying take it out of there as a single sheet. You might want to patch it up a bit like this, just so it's in keeping. So yeah, I think it's a nice idea. I certainly couldn't emulate that with paint myself. It would be difficult for me to do that. So I'm looking forward to that. I think at the end of it, you'll have a very unique looking model. So there we have it, Werk's 132 scale JU-126 or 127, depending on your fancy. What are my first impressions? Well, you know what, I think the kit itself is really interesting. The subject matter is fascinating. There were some really interesting aircraft designs coming out at the back end of the war, and this is definitely one of them. It takes something that we're familiar with, the pulse jet engine, and puts it onto a design that's a little bit more sleek looking than the Comet, but not quite as futuristic as some other designs. So it sits in the middle there. I really like it. I'm definitely going to do a 2-engine version, and when I build it, I'm definitely going to do it in factory raw. So yeah, I like it. Let's think about highlights and lowlights for a minute. Highlights, the plastic is well thought out in the main. I think there was only really the ski that had the ejector pin marks on the detail surface that was a bit of a niggle. Other than that, I thought it was well thought out. They've taken care with it. They've engineered it with a thought to how it's going to be built. Everything was crisp and really nicely done. I suspect, as it's CAD designed, it should have no fit issues either. So all good from that point of view. The fact that they're giving you so many different build options, twin engines, one engine, no engine, on the trellis, not on a trellis, wings off in a part manufactured version, lots and lots and lots of options, really nice. You've got something there that you could do as a standalone in different versions or as a little mini diorama. Really nice. So I love that about it. 7 different paint options, lots of things to go out there, good quality parts, good quality decals. It's all really, really good. Low lights, we've got no seat harnesses. Hello? You know, even they're not even put decal ones on or anything. So yeah, that's a bit of an omission for me. The instructions, they are a little bit style over substance, and they need to think about the instructions a little bit more. I don't have an issue with the way they're presented, you know, the coffee stains and that sort of stuff. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a more immersive experience, like a Wingnut Wings build. I get it, and it's nice, but at the end of the day, the instructions need to be usable, they need to be intuitive, and they need to be easy to follow. And let's not forget, when we've finished building this model, the instructions are the bits we put in the recycle bin. So we're not going to keep the story, and we're not, or anything like that. So spending all that time on the presentation is great, but you can't do it and ignore the fact that functionally the instructions need to work. And I found them a little confusing. Now, all right, I was looking at them upside down for the sakes of the camera, and that perhaps didn't help. And, you know, it's a first impression. We're not sat and study them. But I do this all the time, and I go through instructions all the time, and I can read lots of different instructions upside down and see the logic of them. Airfix instructions, nice and simple. Revell ones, less simple but still easy to follow. Tamiya ones, busy but easy to follow. Das Werk ones, simple but don't make sense, don't run in a chronological order, need more sub-assemblies marked out as sub-assemblies to make it clear what you're doing, and a build step-by-step process that's actually in order. So instructions is the low light for me. What I'm going to say is this has done enough, this kit, to say that with given the right subject, I would consider a Das Werk kit again. So it's changed my mind because after the U9, I thought I'm not buying another one of your kits. But like I say, I bought this before the U9. I think the subject's really interesting, and I'm looking forward to building it. So, yeah, not a bad kit, all in all. Okay, so there you have it. If you were thinking of getting one of these, you now know what you get in the box and what you need to go out and source, and so on and so forth. So I hope that was useful. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your modelling, and we will see you very soon.